From Vermont Public, this is The Frequency. I'm Mitch Wertlieb. It's Thursday, July 3rd, and here are today's headlines. Vermont's Climate Council has approved a new roadmap to cut greenhouse gas emissions in the state with a climate action plan that contains more than 250 policy recommendations. Transportation and home heat are the biggest sources of climate warming pollution in the state, and Vermont hasn't cut emissions from cars or buildings much in recent years. This new plan recommends the state join one of two regional cap and invest programs, the Western Climate Initiative, or a nascent program New York State is developing. The programs would impose a fee on all fossil fuels imported into the state. Vermont could then use that fee to give residents rebates for things like electric vehicles and cold climate heat pumps. Jared Duval is on the Climate Council, and he says federal funding cuts were on councilors' minds.
That puts more of an onus on us to design state-level policies and programs that can weather whatever is happening or not happening.
The new plan calls for greater investments to help towns adapt to climate change-fueled disasters. Tomorrow is Independence Day, and nationally, the day after July 4th sees the highest number of stray dogs at shelters. And that's due to some four-legged companions being frightened by Independence Day fireworks celebrations and then fleeing. Jacques Dupree is executive director of North Country Animal League in Morrisville. He said pet owners can do a number of things to keep their pets safe during holiday celebrations, like keeping pets at home during celebrations and running a fan indoors to create some white noise.
The sound of fireworks can be pretty terrifying for animals. Many pets panic, they escape from their homes or yards, and just simply become lost.
Dupree says to make sure that your pet has a collar with identification or is microchipped. Most humane societies statewide offer microchipping services. The city of Burlington is launching a new pilot program allowing people experiencing homelessness to park in a secure location overnight at no cost. The Safe Overnight Parking Policy, which begins tomorrow and runs through August 15th, will allow people meeting homeless criteria to park at Perkins Pier from 6 in the evening till 8 in the morning. The spot features a portable ADA toilet, lighting, and security cameras. Eligible guests must first register with Sarah Russell, that's the city's special assistant to end homelessness, and complete an intake form. Those approved will then be assigned a permit number and allowed to park. And in Rutland, officials have advanced a measure to crack down on feeding birds and other wild animals in public. The Rutland Herald reports the measure would add food and animal feed to the list of prohibited items in the city's littering ordinance. A resident asked officials to take up the matter in May. She pointed to an uptick in rodent infestations that she believed could be traced to a woman scattering bird seed downtown. The ordinance change has not yet been approved by the Rutland Board of Aldermen. Coming up, we speak for a second time with Kytreana Patrick for our occasional series about class. The Newport resident recently gave birth to her first child and has started a new job. She talks about her recent life changes with Vermont Public's Erica Heilman after this.
Thanks for listening to The Frequency, where support comes from Alpine Telehealth, offering telepsychiatry solutions for Vermont hospital, community mental health, and primary care. Physician-owned and operated since 2018. Learn more at alpinetelehealth.com.
What Class Are You? Is a periodic series that explores everyday lives inside the American class system. In today's episode, we revisit with Kytreana Patrick, who was a guest from the First Class series back in 2022. Back then, Kytreana was working as a cashier at Olney's General Store in Orleans. Since then, Kytreana's gotten a job at a factory that manufactures combat helmets. She's got a small apartment in Newport, and this past January, she gave birth to her first child, a daughter named Emberlyn.
How old was Emberlyn when you went back to work?
They give you 12 weeks, but I stayed out for another week and a half, 2 weeks, because I just could not convince myself to go back to work. So I went like 2 weeks without pay. So she was about 4 months old by the time I finally went back to work.
So money, on a scale of 1 to 10, how stressed are you about money?
Extraordinarily. We are lucky to have my mom. She's a wonderful woman. She is the reason why we have a pack and play for her to sleep in. She's the reason why we have a car seat. I, unfortunately, since Emberlyn has been born, have not been able to buy her anything except an occasional article of clothing or an occasional toy. But the big things, the things that are upwards of $80 to $200, I can't get those things unless I want to increase the credit that I already owe to this world.
What about the job?
So going back to work, I decided to go back just 30 hours instead of 40 hours. And with that, my paycheck predominantly goes to just bills.
What do you want her to have that you didn't have?
I mean, I would love it if she could come to me and be like, I'm having a dance at school. Can you buy me a new outfit? And that I can immediately say yes. She wants her hair done and I can say, you've behaved, you've done well. Of course you can. I don't want to have to be like, oh, I can't afford that right now. So I just want her to never realize that adults struggle, that I want her to grow up and think that life is so easy as an adult and not realize how hard it is.
What do you want for her? What's your fantasy circumstance? Like, where do you want to live? What do you want it to feel like? What do you want her to have?
The vision is just to have even as simple as a single wide trailer where she has her own bedroom. It would be nice if I can afford for her to partake in any sort of social thing, whether it be summer camp, basketball, or a dance. I would love to be able to get her to play a musical instrument, rather than say, yeah, that'll happen when pigs fly. I want to be able to say, you got it. You want to try it? We're going to do it.
You want these things for her. Why?
The more that she is able to experience in life, I feel the more she will be able to get along with anybody. I personally felt uncomfortable around girls that seemed like they had, I don't know, the more expensive clothes and the nicer looking hair, and like they had highlights in their hair, and I'm like, I'm lucky if I got a haircut. So I want her to just like not look at the difference of what people have, because she is able to have what she wants to. But the fantasy future is Emberlyn having a little brother one day. We have a beautiful house with a master bathroom. It would be nice to have a multi-story, multi-level house with a lawn. Because growing up, my lawn was, you could lay down on the lawn and one end would be touching the other, you know? I just want a place for my kids to play outside, a barbecue pit for their father to barbecue on, and to not have to worry about ever losing it. Because I will always think of how my parents had their own house for 14 years and then they lost it to bankruptcy. So I guess knowing how to take care of my finances is a very important thing that I'm still learning as I go.
You talked before about your dad and the wear and tear on his body at a factory job. How are you going to save yourself from that kind of wear and tear?
I plan I don't think I'll be finding my house anytime soon, but once I find a bigger apartment, the next goal is a new job. I don't know how I led myself on a path from being a cashier to being an assembly line worker in a factory.
What do you want? What kind of job do you want?
Gosh, I mean, it would be awesome to be some sort of community worker and work with people that don't necessarily know how to advocate for their own selves. But honestly, I'd probably be happy just being a receptionist at a car dealership.
You describe what your fantasy future is. What are you scared of?
The scary thing would be to end up being a single mother and having no job. That would be terrifying.
Do you think that the world of, like you're out and about town, you're with the baby, you're, doing life. Do you think that this town, what do they see when they see you?
Gosh, I don't even know. I mean, I'm sure they see a good mom, because a lot of moms around here, you'll see them pushing their kids in their the mom's in the pajamas and the kids in just a diaper. So they probably see me as well put together and responsible, which makes me happy, because like, I'm trying. I'm really trying.
This is Erica Heilman with Vermont Public.
Thanks for listening to The Frequency today. We had additional reporting from Abigail Giles, Mary Engish, Nathaniel Wilson, and Alicia Fries. Today's episode was edited by Liam Elder Connors, and our music is by Blue Dot Sessions. I'm Mitch Wertlieb. The Frequency is off for the 4th of July holiday. Happy 4th, by the way, but I'll talk to you again on Monday.
These days, there's so much news, it can be hard to keep up with what it all means for you, your family, and your community. The Consider This podcast from NPR features our award-winning journalism. 6 days a week, we bring you a deep dive on a news story and provide the context and analysis that helps you make sense of the news. We get behind the headlines. We get to the truth. Listen to the Consider This podcast from NPR.